A continent stood between two oceans, and humanity asked it one question: what if we could cross? That question cost tens of thousands of lives, decades of stubbornness, and one of the greatest acts of engineering defiance in history. Today, 14,000 ships pass through this narrow passage every year. But what keeps this canal alive is not steel, not concrete, it's rain. And when the rain stops, world trade slows with it. One canal, two oceans, an endless struggle for power. But who is really in control of this passage? Panama Canal, the crazy idea that connected two oceans. When you look at a world map, you can see that thin strip of land where the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans almost touch, the Isthmus of Panama. For centuries, this piece of land was like an insurmountable wall for sailors. Ships faced two choices: either navigate around Cape Horn, a dangerous journey of weeks through storm-ridden waters, or disembark and carry cargo overland. Both routes were expensive, exhausting, and deadly. It was at this exact point that humanity made a crazy decision: to cut through this piece of land. Not a tunnel, but a real canal through which ships could pass. And that decision changed world trade, military balances, and even the fate of a nation forever. The first attempt, the French disaster. At the end of the 19th century, the French rolled up their sleeves. Led by Ferdinand de Lesseps, the man who had succeeded with the Suez Canal, they landed in Panama. But Panama was not Suez. There was no desert here. Instead, there were monstrous forests, tropical rains that fell for hours without stopping, floods spiraling out of control, and constantly sliding slopes. And most dangerous of all, an invisible enemy: yellow fever and malaria. At the time, it was not yet fully understood that diseases were spread by mosquitoes. Wrong precautions were taken, swamps were not drained. The result was catastrophic. An estimated 20,000 or more workers lost their lives. Technical errors were also unrelenting. De Lesseps insisted on building a sea-level canal, just as in Suez. But rocky hills rose in the middle of Panama, and digging down to sea level through those ridges was nearly impossible. After every excavation season, tropical rains would cause the slopes to collapse, and the canal bed would fill up again. In 1889, the French company went bankrupt. All that remained was a half-finished excavation, thousands of graves, and a great sense of failure. The Americans enter the scene. At the start of the 20th century, the United States stepped in. The motivation was not merely commerce, but power, controlling sea routes, moving the Navy rapidly, gaining global influence. Around this time, Panama declared independence from Colombia, a process in which American interests played no small part. Shortly after, the US obtained the right to build and operate the canal. But money and permission were not enough. Two major problems needed to be solved: nature and disease. The first move was to fight disease. An army doctor named Dr. William Gorgas was deployed. Gorgas was one of the few experts who understood the mosquito connection, and he launched a comprehensive campaign. Swamps were drained, stagnant pools of water were eliminated, mosquito-proof screens were installed on homes, and neighborhoods were disinfected one by one. Yellow fever cases dropped dramatically in a short time. Without this medical triumph, no engineering genius could have completed the canal. The second move was a stroke of brilliance. The French mistake had been trying to build a sea-level canal. American engineers asked a different question: what if we raised the ships instead? From this idea, the lock system was born, one of the most ingenious water engineering designs in the world. The water elevator. How the locks work. The lock system is a water elevator that masterfully uses gravity. A ship enters a chamber, and the massive gate behind it closes. Pipes at the bottom of the chamber open, and water with no pumps, using gravity alone, begins to fill the chamber. Since the ship floats on the water's surface, as the water rises, so does the ship. Eventually the next level is reached, the gate opens, and the ship moves forward. On the descent, the process is reversed: water is drained, and the ship is lowered. The total elevation difference is approximately 26 meters. On paper, it sounds simple, but when you see a container ship hundreds of meters long and thousands of tons in weight slowly rising within the water, the true scale of the engineering behind those numbers becomes real. There is also the matter of precision. The chambers were built extremely narrow. The slightest deviation would cause a ship to collide with the walls. This is why, for many years, mules were used. Rail-mounted locomotives, attached to the ship by cables, they kept it perfectly aligned as it moved through the locks. The heart of the canal, Gatun Lake. Where would the water for the lock system come from? This is where another masterstroke came into play. The Chagres River was one of Panama's most unpredictable natural forces. During the rainy season, it could transform from a small stream into a massive flood within hours. The French repeatedly found themselves back at square one because they couldn't control this river. The Americans approached the problem differently. Instead of stopping the river, they turned it into a resource. The Gatun Dam was built, the river was blocked, and Gatun Lake, the largest artificial lake of its time, was formed. The lake both controlled the floods and met the canal's water needs. A problem had been turned into a resource. The Culebra Cut, humanity's war against the mountain. But there was yet another obstacle in the middle of the canal, a rocky ridge. The Culebra Cut, known today as the Gallard Cut, became the symbol of this battle. Every morning, dynamite was detonated, shovels were deployed, and hundreds of train runs hauled away the material. Then it would rain at night. The slopes would become saturated, and masses of rock and soil would slide back down. By morning, much of the area excavated the previous day would be filled again. One step forward, 2 steps back. For years, the geological structure beneath the ground moved almost like a liquid when it absorbed moisture. Engineers who witnessed this firsthand described it as the mountain seems alive and is resisting. The solution ultimately was to excavate the slopes at a wider angle, which multiplied the volume of material to be removed, but reduced the slides. And with stubborn persistence, time and again, the trench was finally completed. 1914 and beyond. On August 10, 1914, the SS Ancon completed the first official transit of the Panama Canal. From the Atlantic to the Pacific, that day, World War I was beginning in Europe, which is why the canal barely made the headlines. But over time, its transformative impact became clear. The sea route between America's 2 coasts dropped from 22,000 kilometers to 9,500 kilometers. Trade routes were redrawn, port cities reshaped. The canal never remained static. As the ships in use grew larger, the concept of Panamax emerged, the maximum size vessel that could fit through the canal. Then trade grew even further, and in 2016, new and far larger locks were brought into service. The Neo-Panamax era began, and the canal updated itself. In 1999, after lengthy negotiations, the canal was handed over from the United States to Panama. Since that day, operated by the Panama Canal Authority, it has become one of the backbones of the country's economy. The same question still today. Each year, approximately 14,000 ships pass through this canal. A significant slice of the world's maritime trade flows through here. But the canal's most critical fuel remains fresh water. When rainfall decreases, lake levels drop, and the number of transits is restricted. Climate change is making this dependency increasingly critical. And of course, the geopolitical dimension never disappeared. Whoever controls this passage controls time, costs, and routes as well. Nature had separated 2 oceans. One decision united them, at the cost of thousands of human lives, with decades of stubbornness, facing one of the greatest challenges in the history of engineering. And that decision still determines who arrives first today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's discuss in the comments what our next topic should be.